Hello. Well, this is pure joy. Early morning, spring sunshine, and the garden. Just waiting for the world to wake up around. Very peaceful and so beautiful. And the signs of growth, life all around. The perennials are growing in the bed in front of me, and I'm so looking forward to what we can create this year and how beautiful it's going to look. In this show, I'm going to be planting a new rhododendron just in front of me here. I'm going to be putting a new bird table in the front garden to replace the bird feeder, which is getting rather worn out and tatty, so we're going to give the birds a nice new feeding station. I'm going to be planting some more vegetable seeds, and as a special answer to a request, I'm going to be just repairing a couple of patches in the grass and showing you how I get my successful results. Now, I did visit this a couple of years ago, but my memory being what it is now, I can't remember which episode it was in, so I'm going to do that again in this show as well. There's lots of other little bits and pieces, and so I do hope that you're going to enjoy today's little broadcast. So here we go with a year gardening for April 2022. Well, when the forsythia comes into flower, it's time for us to start thinking about pruning our shrubs. The rules that I have are shrubs when the forsythia starts to flower, and then roses when the leaves start to come out. Now, not all shrubs are suitable for pruning at this time of year. Take this lovely Pruning red robin here. Now, it's not growing to the shape that I actually would like it to grow. However, it's also very, very subject to frost damage. And so I'm going to leave this growing until I know that all the frosts have gone, and we'll revisit that later in the year. However, one of the shrubs that does need its prune now is our buddleias. Now, I've already taken the buddleia at the end of the woodland border and cut that back. I've got to do the one by the stream and the one at the front garden, and so what we'll do is we'll pop down into the front garden and I'll show you how I do my spring cut on the buddleia. Well, pruning. When it comes to pruning, the gardening world has given us quite an array of tools that we can use, but I use just three. I have my secateurs. So these are bypass secateurs, which means that the blades pass each other. They don't meet each other square, they bypass each other, and they have a nice little lock on those. I have my loppers. So these again are a bypass, and they will come through and cut slightly thicker branches. And if I've got a more heavy duty job to do, then I have my pruning saw, which will make a nice clean cut. It's a very, very sharp item and needs to be kept carefully shut away when you're not using it. So let's go and have a look at this buddleia. Well, this is my front garden buddleia, and I did not prune this at all last autumn leading into winter, which I could have done and maybe should have done. However, what we're going to do now, we're going to take it down significantly to where there is strong new growth, and I'll be thinning this out at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the secateurs, which I'll just grab from there, because the branches on this are not too thick, and I'm just going to thin out a little bit from the top so I can see where I'm going to take it down to, because this will be coming significantly down to the ground, but I do need to see where the new growth is. Now, one of the first rules of pruning is to remember the 3 Ds. That's dead, damaged and diseased, because they've got to come out anyway. Now, all of the flower heads on here are obviously dead, so we can take dead off. And inside we have got some dead stems, so we will take those right out. Now, fortunately, we don't have any damage on here, but we do have these dead, so we'll take those out, which will give some more air to the middle of the plant and allow it to grow better. And take this one off here, and already you can see that this is starting to clean through, and I can actually see more of the plant than I could a couple of minutes ago. Now, as I said, I didn't cut this down during autumn and winter, and I also said about dead, damaged and diseased. And if I look at this here, that is damaged, that is split at the bottom away from the main plant and won't be healthy. So we're going to take that right off at the base, nice clean cut, and remove that, and that's going to give more of a chance for everything else to grow. Now, the way that I like to cut these back is I like to cut it back to a growth. So if I'm looking at this here, I'm going to take this one right the way back here to where I've got a new branch growing, and this middle section here is crossing over, they're going to rub each other, so that's going to come out on here, leaving that nice and clear. And then we'll take this back down to just above that next leaf growth. So that's going to be bringing up the new plant for this year. And I'm going to carry on doing that right the way through the plant. Now, this piece here has got a lovely twin section of growth, so we take that out there, and already we can see the shape of the plant for next year. Well, that may look a little harsh, but I assure you that is going to look absolutely splendid this time in about 4 or 5 months. It's going to be up here and full of lovely purple flowers. Well, it's time to just do a little bit of tidying in the fruit border, but before I do that, I'm just going to pick some of this rather nice rhubarb. Look at this, absolutely beautiful, and that's going to go onto our plate this afternoon. Nice bit of rhubarb tart with a bit of custard. Look at that, that's just gonna, oh, lovely. And this is going to keep cropping throughout the year. We're going to keep picking some lovely rhubarb this year. And that's enough for us two for today. The main reason for coming over here though is these are our late fruiting raspberry canes, and they're a little bit on the tall side, spindly and horrible, and everything's going to grow on its new stems this year, so we'll take this right down give the new growth a good chance of coming on there. So we get plenty of fruit this year. Had a lovely amount of fruit last year, and I'm hoping that we get the same this year. And I'm going to keep taking this right the way down, and then once I've cleared the area down here, I can get underneath and I can start tidying all the bits and pieces of deadness off of my strawberries which are underneath here. So there's plenty of tidying up to be done in the fruit border. But whilst we're here, just show you the peach tree. Looks beautiful. Well, you'll probably remember last year how I shaped and trained this, and I've got a little bit more still to do on here. But look at these beautiful blossoms on here. They're such a joy to behold, and they're right the way along the branches on both sides. Absolutely gorgeous thing to see at this time of year. Over winter, the summer house roof started to leak. So as I was extending and adding the pergola on front, I decided to refelt the roof completely. Now I've completed that task, and now we have a waterproof summer house. But also during the storms, the roof was damaged on the garden shed. And so now I'm going to start to refelt that one. Well, here I am, and it's shed roof time. I've removed the side covering. I'm leaving this one on the front, and I'm going to felt over the edge of that. And I'm going to felt right the way down onto the shed, fix it, and then recover it with some new edging. On the top here, I've got my hammer, my nails, my felt adhesive, and I've cut the first piece of felt, so that's all ready to go. I've got my knife for my trimming, and I've got my gloves to protect my hands from the bitumen adhesive. So we're all ready to get up the top and put the felt on. Well, welcome to the roof. Now, I've never had any training or anything in doing this sort of thing, but I'm just using what I think is a little bit of common sense on this one. And so the first thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to start putting some felt adhesive down the side where the first layer of felt is going to fall. Well, having measured the roofing felt, I know how far that is going to come, and so all I'm doing is I'm just going to paint this black bitumen adhesive down the edge, covering up the fixing nails, so hopefully that will give that an added waterproof seal as well to the underside of this roof. And then once I've got this on here, I'm going to firstly then just fix the first section of felt. And I'm going to have quite a big overlap on this, because I want it to be as waterproof as possible, protect my tools and that inside. And that's down that side down. I'm just going to run a little bit just along the corner at the bottom here. Give it that added protection there. Might make that a little bit deeper into the roof here. So we're going to come in about 6 inches, and then this will be fixed with clout nails into the wood on here. And I must say a big thank you to Colin, who gave me this marine ply for the new roof, and I'm sure it's going to be here for a good few years now, if we can get it to go on there properly. So there's my adhesive. Let's pop the paint over there. Time to roll out that bit of felt. As I said, I've already cut this to size, so this will just flip along over there. Then I can fix this and then tighten this along. Then I'm going to add some adhesive along this join here, but I'll be fixing at around about 300mm overlap with the next piece of roofing felt. Well, now, having nailed all around the edge at roughly 150mm, that's 6 inches centres of all the nails going round here. What I've then done is I've taken some of this felt adhesive and just on the exposed nails, the ones that are not going to be covered by the next piece of felt, I've just put a little dab of this felt adhesive over the top. That's going to just give it that little added bit of weatherproofing, I hope. Now it's time for me to just put some adhesive along this join here, cut open this roll of felt and start measuring for the next lay. Well, that's the roof on. Not looking too bad, just a little bit of tidying around the edges and then put the eaves covering and shuttering back on round the sides, and I think that's a job well done. So whilst we're doing a little bit of building, let me show you a plant I've put in by the pergola. Well, this is really taking shape out here now, and I've started to stain down the timber, just a first coat on some of it, and I've got to finish that off over the next couple of weeks. But I really wanted to show you a new plant that I've got here. Because we've got the trellising going up here, I wanted to have some natural cover on it. And so I bought this American ivy, or Virginia creeper, whichever you wish to call it. And I've just got some buds coming on the tips there. And within a few months, that's going to be coming right up the sides. So I look forward to sharing some pictures of that with you later on in the year. This poor old bird feeder has had its day. A little bit old, a little bit tired, going a bit rusty, and I think my little feathered friends deserve something better. So I've been and bought a rather nice bespoke bird table made out of wood, and I'm going to fix that to a slab in the ground here and going to be removing this one. So let me show you now what I'm doing. Well, here we have the old bird feeder and the new bird table. So this is going to come out. I'm going to take these and give them a good clean off, and then I'm going to attach them to here. But the first thing I've got to do is I've got to level the slab that I've got in the ground and then fix the new bird table to the slab. So that's my first job. So the first thing I've done is I've just cleared out the ground a little underneath here, and I've got some old bits of broken slab that I've put in underneath this one in order to make it nice and level, so that we can bring the new bird table in to fix onto the top. Now I need to fix this down so that it doesn't blow over in the wind, and the way I intend to do that is I've put an old, very old, fairly blunt wood drill into my drill, and I'm going to drill through the 4 spurs here, which will leave a mark in the slab, which I can then put a plug into once I've drilled it with my hammer drill. So I've got this really old wood bit in here, and I'm just going to go through the top and then make a mark in the slab. So we'll do the same here. Same on this one. And then finally over this side here. Now I'll take this off, and we've got 4 marks on the slab. So I can take out this completely defunct drill bit, but it actually worked through the wood quite well. Switch this over onto hammer, and then we can start to drill into the slab. we repeat that for all 4 of the holes. Well, now the holes are all drilled, I've got the screws located, and all I've now got to do is just tighten these up, and this will be fitted firmly and securely. So I think we'll have a look at it once it's all done. Well, there we are, a nice new stable dining room for our little feathered friends. Now we'll get the new feeder stations hanging from the bottom, so we'll have quite a mixed diet for them. We'll have some suet balls and some mealworms and various bits and pieces, but all I've got at the moment is some seeds and nuts, so we'll just put some of that down on the table for them, and I'm sure they'll be coming along later on today to have a little bit of a feast. There we are. So bon appetit, my feathered friends. Well, now it's time to plant my new rhododendron in this extension to the woodland border. I've got this beautiful plant here, which is called, let me get it right, Marie 40, which has a beautiful red flower, and that is going to go into a hole that I've already dug. But I've been waiting to go and pick up some of this here. This is very important when you're planting anything like camellias, rhododendrons, azaleas, because they like an acid soil. My soil here is fairly neutral, slightly acid but fairly neutral. So I've got some ericaceous compost to put into the hole so that the plant gets a really, really good start. And I also tend to use this as a mulch around my existing acid-loving plants as well. So let's get on and put the new plant in the hole. Now, whenever I'm planting a new plant, I like to prepare the area, and I also like to make sure that the pot fits in nicely. Now, I'm going to be putting some compost in underneath this as well, which will raise this up a couple of inches, because you don't really want the top of the plant to be below the surface of the soil. That could only serve to get a lot of moisture in there, which we don't want, which could actually rot the plant down. So I'm just going to open up my compost and get my thumb in there, open the bag, and we'll get a fair old lump of that in the bottom here. Give it a good old start there. Get that in here. Very nice. Oh, I love the smell of compost. Then we'll just tap the plant out of its pot. We're just going to open that up just a little bit here. A lot of root. And then we just check that for height, and that's pretty good. Pretty good. Let's work out a nice aspect when I'm sitting down, which angle I'm going to see that plant. I think that's going to be lovely. So we'll now put some more of this in just around the side. Work that in around here. And then we'll take some of the soil that we've already dug out of this hole. Just fine that down a little bit. Bring that back in around the edge. In fact, I might actually use the spade to do that. Makes life a little bit easier. And then all I'm going to do, just around the edge here, I'm just going to heel that down, just to compress it. I don't want to cause any compression to any of the root. Now we'll just run that in over the top here. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some water. And we'll just give that a really good drink down here. At this stage you cannot water it too much. Give it a really, really good drink. Lovely. Then the last thing I'm going to do is I'll take some more of the compost and I'll just add that over the top just to keep the moisture in. And there we go, more around that side there. And I'm sure that this will grace us with some beauty for years to come. Now I've decided in this bottom border where I have my roses to put one feature tree. And so I've chosen a nice apple tree to come to the bottom of the garden to give some height here in this area. Now I've got this bare root and I've got it in a bucket of water. So now I'm going to plant that into this hole that I've already prepared. Well, as you can see, my hole is dug and prepared, and I have this lovely tree here, and that's been soaking, and the roots have taken on lots of moisture, and that's ready to go. Now I've already decided on the aspects that I want the tree, because I've had a look at it and I think face on that is the perfect angle. So turning it round, I will place it there. Now this again is a grafted stock tree, and so I want to make sure that the top of the graft here is above the ground. So just holding it there, that's going to be perfect. So I'm going to just pop some of this soil down here just to hold the plant in place. Just gently bring that around here and then push that down firmly with my hands just to hold it, and then check that for upright. Now I just want that just a little bit further back here. That's fine there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit more compost in before bringing the soil in around the top. Now, differently to when I'm planting a shrub, I want the surface to be slightly lower to feed moisture in here, so it retains moisture when it comes in. So when I'm planting the shrub, I plant it a little bit higher, but I want this one just to have a little well to encourage moisture to stay in the hole, to encourage the tree to grow. So let's just grab a little compost and pop that inside the hole. I'm just going to use a couple of handfuls in here, nicely around that root. Nicely in there. Just one more. And then all I will do is I will bring in some of the soil that I took out of the hole and put back in there. Lovely, lovely. And then we'll just bring that down there. I want to ensure that we've got all of the root nicely covered here, and I'm quite happy with that. So then all I'm going to do now is again give this a very good drink. Let the water soak down into the hole, and then once I've done that, I'll just put a little more compost around the top as a mulch, just to keep the moisture in the ground. And in a week or so's time we will see the new shoots of life on this lovely golden delicious apple tree. It has a maximum height of around about 3 meters, so it'll be perfect for this section of the garden. Give a nice height and a little contrast And that's a little nod to my granddad, because in his garden they had a lovely apple tree down the bottom of the garden, and as I said, I took a lot of inspiration from my granddad's garden. And when my brother came round, the best compliment that he paid me was that my garden looked like the granddad's garden, and there couldn't be a greater compliment than that. It made me very, very happy. So there we go. That's going to hold the moisture in the ground there, and because that's just compost, any moisture is going to soak through and it's going to sit into that table and feed the new apple tree. Wow, this is coming together nicely. Well, a couple of weeks ago I was working in the gardening section of the store in my work, and I met a lovely couple who wanted some advice on repairing a patch in the lawn. So I'm going to go through that again with you now. The first thing though, I've got a rather nasty perennial weed here, and I'm just going to dig down and remove that so that it doesn't give me any grief later in the year. I'll just take my trowel down, make a little plug, and that should just pop out of the ground. And there's the bottom of the roots, so we've got that out, and then I'll just clear those leaves and then pop a little bit of compost in there and fill that up. Now the first thing that I'm going to do to repair this section is actually to break the surface. So I'll grab my rake while staying down here, and all I need to do is just to give that surface a little bit of a lift so that we're not going to be raising the ground level, just making that nice and receptive to the seed mixture that I'm going to put down on there. Another little weed there, we get rid of that one, and we'll bring that across. Because the ground has been exposed, and I think this was due to a plastic bag or something that blew into the garden during the storms and I didn't notice, and it sat here and just covered the ground. So that's just lifted the surface of that a little bit. Now these bits of grass, they will actually grow again. Now what I've got is I've got a patch mix which has got a seed and feed in it, but I then take around about a quarter of a bucket of compost and I just pour the whole pack straight in there. I've got a couple of patches to do, and this should be enough to do both of those patches. So it's got a fertiliser and it's got seed, and now it's actually got compost, and we just give that a really good mix inside here. Get that so that we've got a nice spread of the seed throughout our compost mixture. That looks lovely to me. And then what we have is a mixture of seed, compost and fertiliser all spread out. And then all I do is I work that out over the area, just levelling it down nicely. And the most important thing when you're putting any grass seed down is that it's in contact with the soil. If it's not in contact with the soil, it's not going to grow. And so if I bring it in contact with compost straight away, we know it's in contact with soil. And that, I'll just go into here. I say there's feed, there's fertiliser, and there is now soil. And we'll put that there. And this, even in the predicted weather for the first part of this month of April, this will give us a good germination in 10 to 14 days, because the soil has been warmed up by this lovely weather we've had at the end of March. So that'll do for this patch here. Just move that over one side. So we just gently tap that down so that it's at the same level as the rest of the lawn, because the one thing we don't want when we do come to cutting this, we don't want any raised areas that the lawnmower is then going to lift up. So there is our patch. Now the most important thing today and for the next 2 weeks is to make sure that we give this a water every day. Then we'll come back and have a look at this in next month's show, and you'll see that we have now got a nice green grassy area. So we get plenty of water on there to encourage germination. And it is as simple as that. One patch sorted. Well, that brings me to the end of our April show. And what a busy show it's been. I've been up on the roof and down in holes. It's been fun. It's been great fun, and thank you very much for joining me. The garden is starting to come to life at last, and it's so wonderful to see the lovely flowers coming out. I've got my tulips in the pot here coming through, and the joy of the garden is starting to come back. Now, I've been showing you what I do, but I'd like to know what you've been doing. You've got any pictures of anything that you're doing, or maybe a small video, please pop them in an email to me and we'll share them with our viewers next time round. Now, I've got a lot of things planned and a lot of things I meant to do in today's show, but today's show has run a little longer than I would normally plan, so I haven't even been to the greenhouse to show you my veggies and my summer plants that I'm growing in there, but we will get round to that in the May show. So thank you very much for your company today. It's been greatly appreciated, and I look forward to seeing you in the next show. But for now, I'll just leave you with my few words, which is stay safe, keep well, be kind to each other, and happy gardening. I'll leave you today with a small glass of the amber nectar, and I'll say cheers.